Revision. In this video, I'm going to teach you a form of revision that may be a little bit different than you've been taught before about manifestation and creating the life of your dreams and going back into the past and changing different things about the past that you didn't like, or creating a new event in the past the way that you wanted it to go, because there's no difference between the future and the past. They are both already completed. You just haven't experienced that yet. So if you go back into the past and you create an imaginary act in your mind to an event, say, for example, winning the lottery. You played the lottery, or you played a scratch off and you scratched it off, or you picked your numbers and you didn't win. You can go back into the past and recreate that event as if you did win. Because this is a much more simple process, because you've already experienced that. So you know what it looks like. You don't have to recreate an entire scene of what it's going to look like exactly. You already have a really good idea of you picking your numbers, even though they were the wrong numbers until you revise it. But you already have that clear picture of that event in your mind. Now you can change it by simply going back into the past and revising the scene, not going into the future and imagining that you are winning the lottery, that you're going to win the lottery in the future. Because a lot of times people have a disconnect from visualizing and thinking from the end, from a future state that hasn't happened yet. But when you're going back into a scene that you've already experienced, but changing it, that can be a much more simple process. And I've been experimenting with this on many levels because of the way that quantum physics works, and then how time and everything is already created. And there's no difference between the future and there's no difference between the past. Between the two, there's no difference. So ultimately, this creates glitches in the matrix or glitches in the simulation by going back to a scene that you've already experienced to happen the way that it did, with your own awareness and your own belief systems the way that it is, but going back now and changing that. Like, for example, you go back into the past and where you played a scratch off, and you imagine that you won $10,000 on a scratch off instead of not winning anything. You've completely changed that. People are congratulating you, create the entire scene. You won this ticket and you feel very emotionally charged about this, like the sense of relief that you've just won, $10,000. What will primarily happen after you do this is you're not going to win that scratch. That event is not going to move forward specifically. What's going to happen is something's going to happen in your life where you're going to get $10,000 from something else. Like, you may get a promotion at your job, or there may be some investment, something that you invested in that all of a sudden that company just took off. Because the glitch in the simulation feels, the subconscious mind feels what has just happened. You won $10,000 in the past and you just made that real. So the subconscious mind has to come up with something within your awareness that can take place of that $10,000 that you didn't win, but you felt that you won it. And then it has to move it in time, space, or into your world now. So essentially, this creates the glitch in the simulation. When you go back into the past, recreate an event and entirely change that event, whatever that may be, whether that's money, relationships, or or an injury, something that you want to change in your life that didn't go the way that you want it to go, but you can still remember it very vividly. You can go back and change that, but it's not going to change that actual event. And this is something I've been experimenting with. It's not actually changing the event itself, but it's causing something to happen in my current reality that's taking away the injury, or it's giving me that amount of money from somewhere else, or it's creating another relationship from somewhere else, or the same relationship where that person has a change of heart. But it doesn't change the actual event, but it changes the ultimate result. And I say this because I had a recent experiment with a friend of mine that I told him how to do this clearly. And because there was something that he wanted to invest in, and it was a while back, and he didn't make the investment, but that investment 20, 30x where it was then to the current moment. It's 30x. He would have 30x his money. So he's very upset about this. So I told him to go back and revise the scene. Go back and revise this investment scene and that you did invest in it. Create an event in your imagination and replay it over and over again as you're falling asleep at night that you did invest in that company. And after I told him to do this and exactly how to do it, he did this for several nights. And then he contacted me, I think 5 days later, and told me that he had signed 2 new contracts or 2 new clients for a specific amount of money of sales into his company. And that amount of money that he received from those 2 clients was the equivalent. It was like it would have been 28x what he would have invested if he would have invested in that company. It was actually exactly 28x where that company is today. So it happened. He got the exact amount of money and profit from doing the revising the scene, even though it didn't change the actual event. It created a new glitch in the simulation that made something else happen in his world where he got the same amount of money. And remember that this can be used for absolutely anything that you're trying to create. It doesn't have to be money. You just have to land it correctly. You have to have the discipline and the attention and the muscle of your mind developed to where you can visualize a scene clearly and go into the scene and really make it feel real as you're going to sleep at night, and just keep doing it until you land it one time. You only have to land it one time, but it's actually falling asleep with this new experience, that you experience this differently. And Neville Goddard explains this a lot throughout his books. Essentially, manifestation is about changing your identity or your concept of yourself. And that's exactly what this does. Just like what my friend did when he went back and changed the scene that he actually invested in this company. It changed his concept of himself because he invested in the company and he knew where it was going to go because he had already experienced that it was going to 30x the money. So when he went back and invested in that company, it changed his concept of himself in the current reality. And even though he was changing it in the past, he was doing it in the present moment. He was actually there and he brought here to there. So it was actually happening right now in the present moment in his own imagination. And when he created that event that he actually invested in the company, it changed his concept of himself. And as soon as you change your concept of yourself, Neville Goddard explains this over and over, that your world has to change with it. So his new concept of self was having this additional amount of money in his current reality. So then it doesn't change the actual event, but the result changes. The result absolutely changes because that amount of money sends the simulation into a glitch, essentially. It's a glitch in the simulation, and then the simulation has to bring that money to you from somewhere else. There's an unlimited supply of money and relationships and things that you desire in the simulation, and you can get any of it simply by changing your concept of yourself. But this method of revision changes your concept of yourself instantly. As soon as you change an event in the past, that instantly changes your concept of yourself. And then your world has to instantly change with it. And this goes the same thing for changing or manifesting a new physique or healing an injury from the past. You go back and change that. You go back and change that scene that would materially change your identity or shift your concept of yourself. You're going to wake up in the present moment, and then things are going to start happening. They're going to bring things to you, and you're going to be attracting these things, all these things that are going to manifest that into your world, because now you're living in a world where your concept of yourself has changed. And now you're going to manifest everything that is in the same frequency or the same feeling states as your new concept of yourself. Because if you go back and change something, you go back and change and you really feel and experience that you won the lottery or a scratch off, or you're really in this relationship, or you're really doing this, this, and this. Something's going to happen in your current reality. You really land that, fall asleep doing that. Something's going to happen in your current reality that's going to mirror that back to you. It's going to give you something. It's not. It might be the same thing. It might change the event depending on what it is. But most of the time, it's not actually going to change that specific event. But the result is going to change. You're going to get that amount of money. Or you're gonna heal from that injury, or you're gonna get that relationship where you feel that same sort of love and passion. So it's pretty simple. You just have to develop your attention, have present moment awareness, find out exactly what you want to change from the past. Maybe it's something very recent, or maybe it happened a long time ago and you can remember it though. You know what it is. You can go right back to that event. and then rehearse it. Recreate that in your imagination. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, focus your attention on the inner imaginary act. Your imaginary act, focus in on that very clearly. Replay the event, recreate the event you wanted, the way that you wanted it to go, and then loop it in a 5-second movie clip. 5-second movie clip, maybe 10, depending on how developed of an attention that you have. Redevelop that scene to exactly the way you want it. Do it before you go to sleep at night, sitting up while you're doing that. And then as you develop the scene, lay down in a position that you normally wouldn't sleep in. Like if you usually sleep on your back, sleep on your side, or vice versa. Then once you develop a scene sitting up and you get it pretty clear, lay down in an odd position or a position you normally wouldn't sleep in. Then keep replaying that. As you're falling asleep, keep it in your mind, keep replaying it. And the moment that you fall asleep doing that, feeling that that is actually happening to you right now, is when you will send a glitch into the simulation. The simulation will glitch and you will have that result come into your world. And if you find that you don't have an ability to visualize or hold your attention, I'm going to put a card on the screen for a guided visualization training video that's going to absolutely assist you to get you to that next level. Because if you have aphantasia, you have something like that to where social media has really corrupted your imaginary process, and you've kind of become a consumer and not a creator, this meditation is absolutely going to change that for you. It's going to absolutely create a new facility in your mind to where you can start imagining vividly and see pictures in your mind. So click on that video, that card right on the screen. Use that for your training. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video.